Hello, this is Chris aka The Dark Wall and Stay Indie Watt Games. Yeah. This week is Fireside articles. Last time we gave you an interview with Nathalie Lawhead. This week we bring you an interview with Nathalie Lawhead Part 2. An interview so great it couldn't even fit into one article. You can expect lots of interesting anecdotes and design philosophy stuff from this interview. If you liked part 1, this is also an awesome article. If you didn't read the first part, then I would suggest you do so. Next is an article from Jupiter Hadley, Jam Favorites 1-Bit Clicker Jam. A 1-bit game is a game that visually only uses 2 colors. Why isn't it called 2-bit then? Well, because a bit, or a binary digit, is a unit of expression that can be either on or off. So when you have 1-bit colors, each pixel can be either on or off, or in other words, black or white. Or if your aesthetic has slightly less contrast, brown or beige. A clicker is a kind of loose term. Generally it means a game where you only use the mouse. So this is a very minimalist game jam, which generally can result in some interesting games. When the developer doesn't have to devote as much time to graphics or mechanics, they can end up making a lot of content or focusing on making some really good content. We've covered a game from this jam before actually, that was Fairy Song in episode 19 of GameWatt, which is the show we're doing. I know that you probably don't know it's the show we're doing because Ma didn't bother to write the intro to the script. You should read this article if you want to hear Jupiter Hadley's opinion on the game or on some of the other games that enter the jam. And even if you don't want to hear it, I insist you read it anyways. Time for another post from Indie Game Hunt from a few years ago. The new wave of FMV games, or the not quite so new anymore wave of FMV games, but they're still interesting. FMV means full motion video. In this context, it's when people film something in real life and use it as graphics in a video game. And of course that means you can only display what you filmed. So every possible outcome and element of an FMV game had to be planned out and filmed in advance. Chances are you may have heard of one or two of these games. Hopefully you know about Her Story, a game that really nails the concept of a detective game by having limited gameplay in the game itself and maximizing how much of the gameplay happens in the player's own head as they try to piece things together. And there's some other super interesting games on this list that make innovations from their limitation, that we could all learn from or just admire. Let's cap this episode off with another article by Jupiter Hadley, Jam Favorites, the Tiny TV Jam. A jam where all the games had to fit in a 10 by 11 pixel screen. I'm sure you're curious, as I am, as to what the developers were able to create in such a small space. Personally, I think they should take it further and do an even tinier TV jam. I'm talking 5 by 5, or even 1 by 1, which is technically a single pixel. Challenge breeds innovation in the indie community, and that's why jams are so useful. So if you want to see what these developers did when faced with a small challenge, because the word small, they had worked on a small screen. This is good jokes. Read this article. Next week is Featured Games. I'm Chris, aka The Dark Wall. Why would the great, well-received host of GameWatt ever lower himself to something so beneath him? That is absurd. Bye.